Hey guys, Kinggath here, and welcome to another episode of Kinggath Podcast. Kinggath Podcast. I usually call it the Kinggath Podcast. Whatever, doesn't matter. Today's guest is probably the person with, I would say, the most total combined downloads on Fallout 4. His mods have become staples for most of us, and they are pretty much a necessity in the community. Welcome, Gambit77.
Thanks for having me.
So how in the hell did you do those mods? Because not only are they staples in a sense, but they are also, like, looking through them, probably one of the most boring mods to create I can imagine, because there's just so many records. Like, you must have the patience of a damn saint to get through those.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I do.
So the AWKCR kind of started as a necessity, right? Because back in 2015, there was a keyword limitation.
There was that, and it actually, before that, Valdesil had started working on instance naming rules, and he approached me with an idea of a way to have the keywords in a shared plugin for us both to use, so that his item sorting mod would work with Armorsmith straight out the box. So that's how it initially got started with. That's how he came up with that idea, and then I kind of expanded on things we could do with it, as far as shared crafting menus and stuff for
right. And it's
for
really useful
armor
just
weapon
for
benches.
Right, and it's so useful because otherwise you would have every single weapon, every single armor mod would be introducing their own categories, and it would just be a mess, which I'm sure happens in all Bethesda games. I'm sure at the beginning, before people kind of come up with a standard, it's just a mess. And you guys got right out of the gate with that.
Well, yeah, I had been playing Skyrim before it came out, and I just kind of wanted to tackle some of the issues that there were with interoperability between mods and Skyrim. So that's why I came up with the slot usage standard, and because Skyrim, a lot of mods would have like broken down outfits that were like a whole bunch of different parts, but everybody would be using their own slot usage, so they weren't really like interchangeable with each other.
Right.
So that's why I came up with the slot usage standard, and the shared menus was kind of more just a sanity thing. It's the way I wanted it, and I saw how it would be useful to share it. So
yeah, I mean, it's all sanity stuff, because the what ends up happening otherwise, and it still does happen, is you just end up in patch hell, where you've just got to have little patches for every single combination of mods, and then I know a lot of players who want their stuff like perfect, and they can spend dozens of hours just setting up their load order to get it the way they want it, because they're building all these damn patches for all these other mods.
Yeah, Cathedral of the Method.
Right. Elemenster's been telling me he's going to come onto the podcast and teach the method so everyone knows about it, because apparently it's the way, and not many people know about it. I only roughly understand it, but
it's the way I did it before I even knew that it had a name. But yeah, it's the way to go.
Yeah, it's quite the involved process. Like, you've got to be committed to it, but it does make for, especially if you have a set of mods that you're going to be using every time. I think it's definitely worth the trouble.
Definitely.
So
it's nice to have a well-oiled game.
Yeah, for sure, because those games are unstable enough as is. You don't need to add in your own mess on top of it. Now, you start more playthroughs than most people, so I can see why you would do that, because you always are posting random messages in the Sim Settlements forum or in the Discord when you have a new playthrough going, and it seems like it's every couple of months.
Actually, it's not. I'm actually only on my third playthrough of Fallout.
Oh, so are you one of the rare folks who will come back to a playthrough? Like, you'll roll it back up and play again? Or do you just drag it out for a long time?
I just drag it out for a long time.
I get really obsessive compulsive about knowing exactly where everything is. So if I stop playing for a while, like if I take 3 or 4 weeks off, when I come back, I'm like, go, time for a new character. Got to do it. So I have like 15 unfinished characters that made it up to level X, and then I just abandoned them.
I'm the type that sometimes I'll be like level 50 before I even make it to Diamond City.
Yeah, that can be pretty easy if you're rolling in with all of the these mods out there that add just a bunch of little random quest content, or things
yeah.
like
and
Horizon
spawn
that
mods.
add.
Gotta have
The spawn mods.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that I know there's another one in the works, but I don't know where it's at. But like War of the Commonwealth, I have had on my list for a while to try, just to see how much that changes the feel of the game with just tons and tons of NPCs everywhere.
It's pretty great. You should definitely try it. When I was using it, it was in my top 5.
Yeah, one of the problems
fun.
I've had with it is that it has plagued my support ticket load for a long time. So I always tell people not to play with it, just because it's probably the worst offender for script usage in Fallout 4's community. It's very, very spammy, and so a lot of times it'll just break something like Sim Settlements, which can be spammy in moments, like when city plans are building. Sim Settlements is a real bastard like that, but the rest of the time it's pretty lightweight. And so people will put in tickets like, my game's not working, none of my scripts are working, and then I'll look at their save file, and it'll have like 500 scripts running from War of the Commonwealth, and I was like, well, there's your problem, bud.
Yeah, I'm using Endless Warfare this time. Like, the
That
thing I
one
liked about
feels
Spawn
better.
the reason I like War of the Commonwealth is all the spawn points it adds. But then Endless Warfare has a spawn multiplier for the vanilla spawn points, which is
Okay.
nice. Because, like, with War of the Commonwealth, it'd be really dangerous traveling around. But then when
Right.
you got to a dungeon, it was, like, easier than just walking around. Which
Gotcha,
didn't seem right.
Yeah, right. But Endless is just enhancing where Bethesda already decided to put stuff.
Yeah. So it makes the
Yeah,
dungeons
it's-
harder, which is nice.
Right. Yeah, I haven't played either of them, and I need to, though, because they seem like they would be a pretty big game changer as far as changing the whole feel of the game. Because it really feels like you can just kind of stealth your way through the whole game, because there's not enough enemies to make it like open warfare necessary.
Yeah, I don't really stealth at all. I'm straight up running gun.
That's what I'm
I
doing
bust
now.
in
I
with an
used to.
assault rifle and let it rip.
Well, then that explains why you made a mod like Weaponsmith, because gotta have your gear how you want it. With the running gun style, definitely is not some way I've usually played, but it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
And it also makes me understand why people are so into weapon mods too.
Yeah,
Because like
weapons are
if
fun.
you're playing stealthy, then like usually the best weapon. You're just gonna go grab a sniper rifle or a gauze rifle, soup it up, and you're done. But if you're running gun, then like there's a bunch of different weapons that can have a place in your loadout.
Yeah. I mean,
So
even if you like prefer like a particular type of gun, like I like assault rifles. It's nice having a variety. If you're using the mods that give you like a bunch of extra companions, which I do. You can give everybody a different gun.
Right.
So even while they
some
might
style points.
function roughly the same, they
Yeah.
look cool, and it's a nice variety.
Right.
And it's good to see
Yeah,
NPCs having a bunch of different stuff.
That's my favorite part, is seeing all the, because I had always just avoided weapon mods, because I really like what Bethesda has done. They've got a real stylistic game going on. They've got a weapon that covers the bases for most of the bases. Like, there's not a lot of holes in the usability factor, but seeing all the enemies, all the different gear is really cool. It really just makes everything pop a little more.
Yeah. Right now, me and Third Storm are working on building out the leveled lists for armor keywords, and I've basically set up a template that we're copying for all the different factions that'll basically cover slot usage for like every kind of apparel possible, so people will be able to just plug in their armor records into the lowest leveled lists, and it'll be propagated. So you could have somebody with like outfit like backpack or satchel or a necklace or scarf or gloves or headgear with glasses or headgear with face bandanas, like every conceivable possible combination of gear for up to every slot that can be used will be covered by the leveled list for building out.
Real easy injector script for people to use, so that way, because I know not everybody takes a lot of time to think that stuff through. Some mods, like I've seen them, they kind of over inject, which is a problem when you leave it up to everybody to decide how their injection works.
Maybe we're actually setting it up for a lot of the major mods that do have stuff to put in leveled lists. We're actually put in a leveled list entry in at the AK level.
Okay.
So basically there will be like, say like Eleanor's outfits. Like we got a list for that in the outfit list. So all she would have to do is just add each of our armor records to the list that we already have injected. And it'll propagate everything. Same thing with their scarves, stuff like that. So we're doing that for a lot of the major mods that we all use.
Does that stuff, do they have to decide still how it's distributed to the NPCs, or does your mod just, or is the idea that your mod will take care of that part?
It'll take care of that part.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like we're going to have it set up for all the different factions.
Okay.
And even some of the factions, like not all NPC records are the same, but some of them you can actually have like a separate male or female list.
Right.
It won't work for all the factions, but some of them, like Settlers and Minutemen, I think, and Raiders, I think, we'll be able to set it up so you can have different lists for male or female NPCs. So it'll really be really good for really tweaking the variety a lot.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So how do you deal with in that regard? Because level lists are fascinating to me because it's something I've barely dived into, but I can see it's a constant problem for the community, mostly because we don't have a function to strip individual items out of the list. So it's kind of like once you start messing with leveled lists, the save is kind of poisoned forever, and so it's always like a tricky subject. And
that's kind of why I avoid scripted leveled lists. I don't actually use them in my game at all.
No, because of even though you've got your list all perfected.
Mm-hmm.
So do you manually go in and set up which people you want to equip which gear? Because one of the things that I really like that Bethesda did is they've given each group kind of a style. So like, and not just specific uniforms, but even, for example, the Minutemen and the Gunners and the Raiders, they each have certain pieces of vanilla clothing that they prefer and choose, so that they all kind of have like a almost a theme to them. Like the Gunners tend to wear lots of greens, the Raiders are a lot more browns and grays, and so like everybody kind of has a feel to them, and it's easy to break that with too much leveled list injection.
Yeah. Well, we've got it. We're setting it up so each faction will have their own separate thing, so there's not going to be like overlay. So basically, people will still have the control of how they want that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that's how I do it in my game. Like the Gunners are more militaristic, like mercenary type stuff, and the Raiders just like dress like crazy psychos.
As they should. Now, do you take the time to build out the leveled lists for all of your mods? Like, do you take the time to redo them all? So if you've got 40 different outfit and weapon mods, do you then go into the creation kit or I'm sure you use Xedit for this, CK for this would be a nightmare. But you go set up. Yeah.
I haven't
set up your individual leveled lists, or do you just rely on what
the
modern authors do?
Although I haven't gone all the way doing it with apparel yet. I mean, I have some of the bases covered through the Raider Overhaul and Mercenary Pack.
Mm-hmm.
And for Minutemen, I use the Militarized Minutemen. I really like that mod a lot.
Yeah, me too. It's good.
I think that's
really
an excellent aesthetic for them.
It's my only beef with that one is how damn overpowered they are. Like their gear looks great, but my God, it seems like they got rid of the low level ones or something. Or maybe just the gear makes them that powerful that's the problem.
I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't really noticed.
It also
that.
Could be.
You need to start using Weaponsmith. a lot of the balance comes down to the weapons, and I did a lot of work to balance it. So.
Weapon balance has been a problem in my game because I'm playing with a save game that's basically designed by my audience. It's like I just install almost whatever mods people tell me to. So I've just got 150 some random mods that are not necessarily meant to work together, as an experiment. And it's been entertaining, but balance is definitely a problem.
Are you using better power armor?
I am not. I always felt like power armor is overpowered enough. I don't need it to be.
Well, no, I don't wear power armor, but you should install better power armor, because
Okay.
that makes power armored NPCs extremely dangerous.
Oh, so
Which
then all
is
of
a
a sudden
lot
you
of
got
fun.
little bosses everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like with that mod, you actually have to wear down a piece and destroy it just to be able
Okay.
to cause them any damage.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even think about it for NPCs. I just read the description and I'm like, that's too much. Like, I feel way overpowered in power armor because I love power armor. I find myself using it, and either I'm playing stealth or I'm playing power armor. It's one or the other.
Yeah, I don't like wearing it because it's so loud and it slows you down so much.
Mm. Oh, see, I like the feel of being a tank, but it's a shame that they give it to you so damn early in Fallout 4.
Yeah, they kind of made. That's not the only mistake they made. Like, why did they give somebody a minigun at the very beginning of the game? That's
Yeah.
just
Well,
ridiculous.
that kind
Like
of
that.
what I found with that is it's super balanced around amount of ammo available because you rip through those 5mm in no time, and there's no way in the vanilla game to craft it. So you're just kind of like you're at the mercy of whether or not the enemies have any.
Well, yeah, I just thought that was a bad idea. In
Make for
Weaponsmith, what we did with that in Weaponsmith is we
Okay.
made that a one-off weapon that basically you can't mod it. You can't
Oh, that's
something
a
I
good
need
idea.
to do for the next update. I'm actually going to create its own ammo just for that gun so that you'll
Got
never
it.
be able to get more ammo for it either. So it'll
Right,
just
so
be
it's
like
kinda
you
like-
got what's in it, and once it runs out, it's toss it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the mounted turret gun as opposed to the minigun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a clever solution to it. Yeah, I recently unloaded with a minigun, and I went through about 1,200 rounds in a single fight. So I was like, all right, well that kind of takes
Yeah.
care of that. I can't really use that as a permanent weapon, especially if
It
you're
can be
playing in
crazy.
survival and you've got weight with if you got weight on your ammo. I don't even know how that thing's usable then.
Oh yeah, I like having no weight for ammo.
I think.
Plus,
I
I'm
know
a huge carry weight cheater.
Yeah, you don't like weight on anything. That was actually one of the things you did recently that I disagreed with, which was your Viz G coming out of the box with no weight on almost anything. I was like, no, give me back my weight.
Well, there's a
'cause-
weight patch, so
Yeah, there's a
people
weight
can
patch
have
now, but
weight
that-
if
when
they
it
want
first
it.
came
but
when it first
yeah.
came out. I saw that and I was like, no, you can't use it now because that mod it solves. And I want to talk more about what you're going to do with the level list stuff in AWKCR because one of the things that we have a problem with, I think in general in Bethesda modding, is getting new people up and running. People who are like a little bit interested in modding, and then if they start reading the descriptions for most of the popular mods, it's overwhelming. There's like so much stuff you're expected to do and know, and it's like, right, that's not inviting to new players, and it's frustrating to even like somebody like I'm heavily in the mod scene. Like I deal with this stuff every single day, and I get annoyed when I have to go jump through a bunch of hoops. And it's like I understand how it all works, so like I can't even imagine being somebody who's just a somewhat casual gamer who's like trying to dip their toes in. So stuff like VizG just simplifies something. So like it takes the nuisance of getting up and running with the item sorting and the new interface just a lot simpler. And it sounds like the changes you're talking about doing with the level list is going to make that a thing for to make just getting your mod list set up and running a lot simpler too.
Yeah, I think it should help, and I think it'll help modders get their stuff integrated with the leveled list to get it propagated.
Yeah.
Well, a lot
anything
of
you
people
do to
who
help
make
with that is
outfits
important.
kind of just skip over that whole part, just make it for the player only.
Right.
But
Yeah, I think a lot of people who get into that, they finish all the art and then they're just like, I don't want to deal with all this logistical garbage. Even though that's the stuff that to me really makes a mod, is like how seamlessly is it integrated, how easy was it to get up and running, as opposed to, and I think a lot of people who play this game a lot enjoy the finding this stuff as opposed to just because if you can just craft everything, then basically you walk out of the vault, you go scrap a few things, and you've instantly got your character's final appearance, and that's boring. Like part of the fun is slowly finding your way to your good appearance. At least that's the way I look at it.
yeah, I don't know if I look at it the same way, but I also don't look at it where I'd play a whole playthrough wearing one outfit.
Ah, okay. So you'll roll it. You'll change it. Well, what makes you change then? So for me, it's always like I find a cool piece of gear, and it's like, all right, well now I need to get stuff that looks like it could match this. Is that how you decide, or do you just like get bored and you're just like, nah, I feel like being this today?
Actually, I'm working on this mod, Revolution Clothing, right now, and basically I've got it set up so it's a single outfit with a gajillion possible combinations to it, where like it's like a t-shirt base, but then there's like a bunch of different pants options that you can wear with it, a bunch of different shoes, a bunch of different socks, and I've got my first jacket option. I'm gonna do more jacket possibilities. So basically, you take it to a bench, pick out, like, they got color swaps for each different mesh part of it. You know, you pick out a t-shirt, pick out a pair of jeans or shorts or whatever, pick out your shoes. You want to wreck some shell toes or some Chuck Taylors or some Timbos. You pick those, pick out some socks, and choose what to wear, and bam. That way, like, you can change your outfit, you know, whenever you want to, you know. Say you
around a bunch of clothing.
You woke up in game and it's like, all right, I'm gonna change my clothes, and you know, you could change your outfit without having to go through the hassle of changing your outfit. You don't have to mod a bunch of different outfits, like,
right.
So just keep it nice and easy. You know, you're out on the
from
go, drop down one of Faden's traveling armor benches, change it up real quick, and bam, you're rocking something different.
Yeah. That seems like a reasonable idea. And I bet if you set up enough templates for it, like, that'll be a hell of a thing to put into the leveled list too for settlers and whatnot.
Yeah, it's basically, I haven't built out the object templates yet. It might be a little bit tricky the way I have it set up, because it's all cascading mod slots, like where mod slots will open up depending on what you chose for the prior one. Okay. So it may be tricky setting up the object templates. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do it, but if I can, it'll basically be like you'll never see the same version of the outfit twice in the game. Awesome. Like, you could put it on the leveled list for every NPC and never see the same outfit twice.
Oh, interesting. And is it all designed to be stackable with armor?
Yeah.
So, like, the armor will overlay. That's my favorite. Anytime, if an outfit doesn't allow me to put armor on top of it, I want nothing to do with it. I love the look of, like, having the metal chunky pieces of Raider armor on top of any clothing. It looks awesome. That's one of the, like, when people complain about Fallout 4, I just look at all the improvements they made and how open the damn game is, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. On an engine level, it's a huge step up.
Oh my god, it's a huge step up. And the game, it's just the gameplay is smoother to play. There's just, I think the thing any Fallout purists have the issue with it is that opening, like, hour of the game just basically takes what used to be the whole game thing of, like, getting access to usually you wouldn't be forced into a character role, you wouldn't be given power armor immediately, and you wouldn't fight a Deathclaw immediately. And so, like, that stuff's just, they had so many, like, faux pas right at the beginning, but in reality all that was to sell the game to new players. It was like, if you're new to Fallout and you get to go through that experience as your first hour, it seems pretty badass. Like, it's a nice little self-contained thing, but the outside of that, I think the game is just fantastic, especially as a modder. There's just so much stuff we can do.
Yeah, the OMOD system is freaking incredible.
Yeah,
it's such a huge improvement.
Yeah, the OMOD system is amazing. The fact that we have access to mess with animations now easily, like, right without, we don't have to have a whole lot of complicated software. I mean, other than 3D Studio, but the fact that we can just inject into the subgraphs is just crazy. You wouldn't have thought we were going to get access to all these extra systems after playing through Skyrim, which is pretty locked down by comparison. I mean, it was very open, and obviously it has a huge modding scene, but man, the jump, and then comparing it to Fallout 3 or New Vegas is just not even close.
Yeah, I can't go back and play the old ones anymore. I mean, they were good stories, but yeah, I just can't do it.
I don't think I could do it because of the graphics definitely are dated, but then the gunplay is miserable by comparison. Like, Fallout 4 feels so damn snappy. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, if you compare it to something like Call of Duty or whatever, it's like, oh, well, it's a different game. It's still supposed to have some little bit of RPG to it, and the you don't have quite the modularity in those other games as you do in Fallout, especially when you toss in a mod. What's that mod that lets you basically attach everything to everything, where you can just like take put like a rocket launcher barrel on a pistol or whatever.
Any mod, any weapon or something like that.
Yeah, it's almost called exactly what I just called it by accident. But just the fact that the game engine can handle all that is awesome.
Yeah.
So beyond AWKCR, what else are you working on? Because I feel like you've always got something cooking that you're working on. And you mentioned was it the Revolution thing you were talking about?
Yeah, outfit? that's been my main focus right now. It's a lot of texture work and a lot of mesh work, so that's why it's coming along slower. Mm-hmm. But I'm doing a lot of cool things with it. Like stuff I'm doing with the armor implementation, it's nothing like anybody's ever done. I don't even know if Bethesda thought of anyone doing anything like this when they created the engine. Yeah. But I'm really showing off what can be done with the engine, so I think people think it's really cool once I get a chance to play with it. And I think a lot of modders are going to look at the plugin and be like, "Whoa, that's some cool shit."
I do that every time I look at your plugins, because I'm like, how did he find the time to put this many records in? Like, I'd have fallen asleep by halfway through that. In fact, it looks like if I were taking on a project like yours, obviously I'm a code junkie, so I'd have found a way to script the whole damn thing to be built automatically, which is what automatically came to mind when you talked about setting up all those object templates. I'm like, there's got to be a way to code that to just auto generate every possible combination.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. There might be, maybe not.
There's always a way.
I do get some help from Zloff for automating some stuff. Like he's written me some custom scripts for doing various repetitive tasks that I wouldn't have wanted to do. So yeah. God bless him. Thank you, Zloff. Right. I love you, buddy.
Oh yeah, thank God for Xedit. Without some of the scripting capabilities that has, there's no way a lot of the stuff would exist in my mods for sure.
Like the best one I think he made me was the ability to generate crafting recipes and mismods from selected mods. Oh my God, the amount of time that script has saved us is
I can imagine.
Unbelievable.
Setting up the constructible object records is pretty time consuming.
Yeah. Like without the script, it's a nightmare.
It's especially a nightmare in the CK with how long it takes to load up those drop-down menus. I don't know what Bethesda's thinking, but like my background is in web programming, so seeing how slow their forms load up in the creation kit is like a sin. I don't understand how they let that happen. Every time I open that program, I'm like, I could have done this in a web language and it would run 1,000 times faster than this thing. What is going on here?
Yeah, I mostly only use the CK for things that can only be done in the CK.
What are those things in your? Because for me, it's always script properties are a big one, and I use those pretty fanatically. So I find myself always in their CK, and then I don't think it would be very easy to do quest scenes in Xedit. That seems like it would be pretty miserable.
Yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to look into. I'm thinking about making a quest for Rev, but one of the things I had to do in CK for Rev was setting up a Minuteman radio station.
Ah, okay.
So basically, I took over the Minuteman station and added like 500 songs. But I had to do it in that because of the involved. I don't want to say MC, but the Minuteman. You've got a problem in this settlement, or
the guy
5:30. So right. because of that script and quest integration, I had to do all of that in the CK.
I would. Then that's basically.
But it's nice.
Up songs. You're using the dialogue sequence. You're using the scene system. So I don't know how that would work in the. Well, I've recently started playing with it in Xedit, and I've heard there's something. I guess I'm a visual person, so the CK just does it better for me as far as setting up a lot of this stuff. So I find myself using the CK more than Xedit, which is I think a rarity among modders who do pretty big stuff, just because it's so frustrating to wait for those things to load. But I'm happy to deal with it if I get a GUI instead of Xedit's basically brick wall of text is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I suppose it is. I kind of like that though, and I like having all the records from a plugin like all in one place instead of integrated with all the vanilla records. It's a lot easier to navigate, to see how things work.
Yeah, I agree with that. There are some times where I'm like, I have no idea what's going on with my mod, and so I have to open it up in Xedit just to look and not have to filter through all Bethesda stuff. I mean, part of the solution to that is doing things like prefixing. I do heavy prefixing of everything, so I can filter it out. But yeah, still sometimes it's just like, or if I forget to prefix, then it's like, what the hell did I call that? And finding it in the CK then is basically impossible because you've got, especially if you
good record naming is key.
Yeah, for sure. But if you forget, you got the Xedit as a backup because it'll show you your own stuff, which is nice. But Xedit scripting, huge. Can't get enough of that. So it's awesome that ZLab helps you out with that because you've got, like I said, you've got crazy amounts of records in your stuff. And looking at it from the perspective of somebody who works in the CK, I'm like, I think like there's no way he could do that. That's not a human thing to be able to do, to be able to sit there and wait for those forms to load up. One thing you'll not have fun with if you do in the CK, if you get into the questing thing, is dealing with the alias screen. It is the devil. Is the devil incarnate. Is that alias screen? It takes so long to load, and half the time it will crash the creation kit on you. So that will be my warning against CK if you're going to get into quest development. Although I don't know how much of that you can do in Xedit. It sounds like if you were able to do setting up radio station stuff in Xedit, you should be able to do most of the quest stuff. It's just without the visual component.
Oh, maybe. I know Dante uses Xedit for the Old World Radio plugin implementation. So I know there's some stuff you could do with it, but I did all the radio stuff in CK for mine.
Yeah.
But I'm probably going to set up a vendor quest, and I've got a bunch of graffitis. And I was basically gonna set up a quest for you have someone send you out to find a bunch of stuff. So it's not too complicated, but there'll be dialogue with a new NPC and stuff. But and
this is gonna be with your clothing mod.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got some settlement stuff in there as well. It's got graffitis and portraits of civil rights heroes, and got a loading screens with the portraits and good quotes from each of them. So do a little edutainment for people while they're waiting for their cell to load.
Now, are you a immersive junkie, or do you not care about that? Like, are you happy to use stuff that's like modern day?
Yes. Because I figure Fallout's in the future, so anything we have, they'd have. I kind of think that the reason they went with the whole 50s music aesthetic for all their games is that they just didn't want to pay to license any music.
Oh, that's it. You just committed a sin. No, it's alternate history, man.
I'm not into the whole 50s thing. To me, the 1950s were like the epitome of fakeness in society.
Oh man, I love
society was all messed up in the 50s, but everybody was pretending like it wasn't.
Yeah, that's not unlike now. But I like.
Well, I think
love
people pretend less now.
I love the 50s aesthetic. I think it just looks beautiful. I love the music from that era. So that like really appealed to me. That was such a huge draw. And then I got way into I've been playing Fallout since it came out, and so I'm like on the verge of being one of those purists like that gets angry, but when Fallout 3 was announced, I got angry that they made it 3D. I'm like, that game will never work in 3D. And then when I finally got around to playing it, I was like, okay, I was wrong. Like, this is amazing in 3D.
Yeah, I started with 3, so.
Yeah, so it's always been. I guess if you started with 3, the actual lore the original game is based on is probably a little bit lost because I don't think they focused on it as much. So I think in the older games, the fact that it was an alternate history was a little more important to the way they were approaching it. Because I'm pretty sure they made Obsidian, or I think it was called Black Isle before that, I think they were trying to make a statement with the game about nuclear proliferation and things like that.
Well, yeah. That's the way I see it. I just don't see it as an alternate history. I see it as been like, society, we're going to blow ourselves up with nuclear bombs, and this is what it'll be like if we're lucky. Because realistically, we'll all be dead of radiation poisoning. But
right. Yeah,
we can have wishful thinking. That, instead of dying, people will get to be immortal ghouls or some shit.
Well, we had to hope.
It's not likely, but
hope that somebody starts actually building vaults for us, proper vaults without experimentation.
I doubt that'll happen. If they build vaults, I'm sure there'll be experimentation.
Oh, why not?
I mean, we got people like Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld running our continuity government department, the Department of Defense. So, would you expect anything less from them?
I mean, I'd be happy to be. I'll take experimentation over radiation death, because that seems pretty awful. Like I've seen some documentaries about what happened to people after Chernobyl, and it's no good. So I'll take the experimentation, especially if. Although I guess. What were some of the best experiments? Like, I always just remember the funniest ones. Like Gary always is, but that, I guess the Garys are all clones of Gary. They weren't other people who got to live down there. That was just Gary.
Yeah.
So, but there were some vaults where there's a chance to survive, or like if we can have some cryo, I'll take that. Although actually I don't actually know if I would take cryo, because I always, so whenever I play Fallout 4, well, not now, but I used to, whenever I would roll up a new character, I would always be like, well, I have to side with the Institute, because if I wake up and somebody tells me it's hundreds of years have passed, like I'm gonna want to go back into the hole. Like, I'm like, this is messed up. Like, I don't know anybody. I have no connections to anybody. So then if somebody offers me like a nice place to live, I'm gonna be like, sweet, thank you. It's like hell out there.
I'll take it.
Like, oh, you need me to go nuke some people or kill off these characters? Sure, just get me out of there. Yeah, that's.
Oh yeah, not me. I look at it as my opportunity to build a socialist utopia.
Oh,
go Minutemen.
See, that's something.
Power to the people.
That's something I've thought about building into the Sim settlements. So, because we've overhauled the gameplay for settlements, and I thought that there's definitely a room in Fallout in which would be a lot of fun for some sort of government type thing. So I've thought about having like a kind of a government tech tree where it would be where you'd lean socialist or capitalist, just to play into the lore of Fallout. I know you don't care about the lore, so not as important to you in that particular choice, but it would be very thematic to do that, to be like, so to go socialist versus capitalist in it.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So I don't know. I started working on trying to balance it out, and we had the problem of setting up like what the kind of perks or whatever would be, like the tree, in a way that where you wouldn't have people in IRL complaining about the benefits and the penalties and stuff, and how they reacted to the policies we would write in the game. I think this is why. Did you ever play Frostpunk?
No, I haven't. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't played it.
Okay, so Frostpunk tried to do something similar. They went after some sort of like government system, and I think they did it faith versus order. I think they decided like it was either like strict like military rule or religious faith to rule people. And I think they probably did that because, well, it's more interesting, but also just because like trying to come up with a way to break up different laws into, would these fit in a communist society or a capitalist society, and not have people complain about them in some way, because people will have strong feelings one way or the other. We're like, that's completely unrealistic. It would actually fall apart because of this, and that. And so I think they avoided it by just like, let's just use examples from history, so we know.
Well,
we know.
I see how you could set it up though. If you had if you go to the capitalist route, you could have a handful of people in each settlement that don't work, and just sit back and do nothing and get all the best stuff, and you can lower the settlement's happiness and increase your cap accumulation, because everyone knows you need to hoard more bottle caps. That's what life's about, right?
Gotta get those bottle caps. That's what it's like. That's what it's like now in Fallout, though. You already do that.
You could have a doctor venue, but the other NPCs can't go to it.
Oh, jeez. Disagree strongly. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum with you, buddy. But the caps thing is something else interesting I've thought about that it could use an overhaul in Fallout 4. And let me know what you think about this idea. So one of the things I find is a problem with the settlement system in general, and just with the fact that you're collecting and hoarding stuff so easily in the game, is it's so easy to get material rich, and then most of the game doesn't matter. Like the economy of the game never actually matters. Like it doesn't matter. I mean, people can charge whatever they want for stuff because it doesn't matter. You're just going to find it for free out in the game world somewhere. Is I thought it'd be more interesting to shift things over to like a caps economy where it's rather than your settlers, growing all the crops you need and finding all the water you need, is instead you had to like do everything through caps. So they would, you would generate caps there, and then you would have to go out. If you wanted to actually acquire those things other than finding them in the world, you'd have to go buy them from vendors. So that way the vendors actually matter. Because I find the vendors are useless. I think that they don't mean anything in the Fallout games.
No, in my build, it's kind of not a caps economy. It's more of a bullets economy.
Okay.
Because the way I've rebalanced the value of ammunition, it's directly tied to how dangerous it is. So the better, higher caliber stuff is pretty expensive to shoot.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I have my money drain in. So
what? Now, do you do this with mods you've created, or do you have a particular loader you use that does all this?
I do that with Weaponsmith.
Ah, okay. So okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding how Weaponsmith works. So my understanding of Weaponsmith was that primarily it's adding in the ability to craft your own weapons, because that was missing from the base game. What else?
That's one small point. It adds a couple hundred weapons. It totally rebalances weapon damage based on ballistic physics, real life ballistic data.
Now, is all of this core into it, or is a lot of this optional features? Like how much of this is
core?
Right out of the box. It's all core. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, I stretched out the damage range because in vanilla, there's not a whole lot of difference between, a little pea shooter shooting some freaking 32 caliber ammo and a 50 cal BMG sniper rifle. So I've really stretched out the range of damage, which works good when you're using NPC mods like Raider Overhaul and Super Mutant Redux and Deadlier Death Claws, stuff like that, which stretches out the range of like NPC health and armor ratings and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it works good with stuff like that and unique NPCs, creatures and monsters, stuff like that. Like if you're using Weaponsmith, if you see any of those mods that come with an Insanity plugin, that's something I used for that's something I made for balancing.
Okay.
So I overhauled all the weapon damage to make it based on real world data. I also did a bunch of framework integration for Weaponsmith. Like if you're familiar with new calibers, it adds a whole bunch of caliber bullets that weren't in vanilla, and loads, which is like hot swappable ammo variants like New Vegas had.
Okay.
So it's got like explosive ammunition, incendiary, irradiated, stuff like that.
Sure.
That you can swap on the fly.
Now that's new calibers, or is that in Weaponsmith?
That's loads. Well, they're both supported by Weaponsmith.
Okay.
So with Weaponsmith, it's got ammunition crafting for all the vanilla ammos, as well as all the new calibers ammos, as well as the loads variants, and I created load variants for all the new caliber ammos. So every ammo's got the multiple variants of it that can be used. I set up a caliber swapping system for guns. So basically an assault rifle would have a range of various small rifle calibers that it can be chambered in, and the object templates. Like there's usually for weapons, there's a bunch of object templates. One of them will be random. So like if you get a random one, which are rare, it could maybe have any of those calibers. But most of the object templates instead will be a limited selection of just the calibers that the gun's manufactured in real life.
Sure.
So, if you get an AK-47, chances are it's going to be a 7.62 by 39 caliber. But every now and then, it could be random. You might get a 50 Beowulf or something like that. So,
now, is this
basically
outside of the... Because in the vanilla game, they did that with a few weapons, but it was with
the
receivers, right?
Yeah, it's not on receivers. I made a new mod slot just for this.
Gotcha.
I didn't really like the way they did that. So we took out all the caliber swap receivers. We got rid of all the armor-piercing receivers, because to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, why is a receiver on your gun going to give your bullet some magical armor-piercing qualities? It's like, nah, get rid of that. Instead, we got armor-piercing ammo, so... if you want to pierce some armor, you gotta pay more for your ammo to do it.
Sure.
I don't. Some of the legendaries I don't like the explosive incendiary legendaries. I don't think it's fair to give people a cheap boost like that at the very low cost that they give it at. So. That's why I prefer having ammo to do that kind of stuff. So it takes more resources to craft it. It's finite. You can run out of it. Right. I think is a better way to do it.
Well, yeah, especially if you're into the more survivally playthrough, then stuff like the legendaries can just like break your whole game. Especially like there's some that are like infinite ammo. It's like, all right, well, that takes me. That's immersive breaking, and it's Yeah, there's a lot of problems with that system.
Yeah, I kind of feel that they completely broke 76 with the legendary mods. I think that's one of the biggest problems with that game. It was a bad system to start with, and then they go and double down on it and triple down on it with 2-star legendaries and 3 stars, and I think now they're planning up to 5-star legendaries.
Yeah, I think it's 5-star. It has support for in the UI.
Terrible idea. Terrible idea.
Well, I mean, they're finding out real quickly how bad it is to try and balance a game with that. Like, at least in a single-player game, you can be like, all right, well, everyone's going to become overpowered gods eventually anyway, so what's the difference? But in a multiplayer? Ugh.
Yeah. The game might be fun once they let us have our private servers so we can mod it and fix everything that they did wrong. But right now, I can't play it. I don't enjoy it. I don't be able to... It's like a walk-in simulator. They don't give you enough storage, so you got to carry everything on you, and you're always overweight, and it's just not good.
Yeah,
like they took the best things.
76. It'll be interesting when we get private servers to see how they do them. As far as
they took the best things about Fallout and nerfed it, like the build limit's too low to build cool stuff at your camp.
Right.
Like, it's like I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, who makes an MMO where you've got limited storage and can barely keep anything?
Well, I mean, I think that's all MMOs have that. All MMOs are like
I don't know. I've only played Star Wars Galaxies, and that was unlimited.
Almost every MMO has a limitation. It's for the database size. It's a technical issue. And that's exactly why they have the low limit on building. Look how easy it is to I know you've run into this because you've asked me if there was any way to rescue your settlements. Of when they get overbuilt in Fallout 4, the engine can't load them anymore. It just fails.
Yeah, I know, but that's my fault.
right. But I mean, that's why it's the engine's fault. It's not your fault. The engine can't hang, so that's why Bethesda had to put a cap on it because you got what do they have 20 people on a server?
But I went past the cap. When I broke my settlement, I had 50 settlers. So
yeah. That's my personal goal for my playthrough. Is that's how I want to go down. I want to see how many settlers it takes to break my game. It seems like a good way to go. All right, got up to 50. Somebody had a video up online of getting to 120 settlers, so it's all right, well, there's a goal at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Even with 30, their AI routines don't seem to work very well.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of
Well,
them just standing around doing nothing.
Oh yeah, that seems to break down at like 15 most of the time. It's like they just give up. I'm okay with the AI not working. I just want, but as long as they'll actually assign to things and let me get more plots, that's all I care about. But the 76 thing is a shame that the way they built some of that stuff. I'm really curious to see what private servers do, because my theory on them is they're going to end up all Bethesda contained. It's not going to be where we have access to an actual server. It's going to be more like you have access to like a little web like a little web interface that's very simple. So it's not going to be like we can install our own version of a script extender or something, which will heavily limit what we can actually do. So it'll be interesting to see how much power we actually get.
Yeah, I hope they don't do that.
For it.
They need to straight up release server software so we can set up our own.
I assume somebody in the community will create their own mirror version of it for it if there's enough cool mods for it. But see, if I were Bethesda and trying to control this, because I mean this is essentially their money generator, is you'd want all the mods to go through Bethesda.net. That way, if somebody puts out something that threatens your bottom line, you can just ban it. So it's just like, oh, that mod's hurting the sales of this, so let's axe that thing. Whereas if the mods are available on a site like Nexus, you really have no control over it.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to give Bethesda the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I don't think
that they're not going to do that kind of stuff.
That's talking real dirty about my favorite company. That would be the. I just foresee them doing not necessarily that in particular, but I see them maintaining a lot of control. I think like launching Bethesda.net with mods to start with Fallout 4 and Skyrim seems like it was kind of the experiment to see like, can we do it? Can we directly support the mods? Because then that gives them a way to force all the mods through them, especially for an online game where it can be a problem to have random mods downloaded from third-party sites injected into your online game. That seems like something maybe you want to avoid.
I don't know. I hope we don't have to use Bethesda.net for everything for it. It's still really clunky.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a pain in the butt.
It is, but it's also for somebody who hasn't modded before or played with mods before, it's real convenient to be able to just log into the game on a screen and click on a few things, as opposed to, I mean, going through a faux mod installer, if you've never played with a mod before, is too much. It's intimidating. You're like, oh God, what do I answer? I don't even know what to answer half the time when I get these installers, because they're usually mentioning a bunch of mods I've never heard of or don't use. So I'm like, I'm just going to leave the defaults and hope for the best.
Yeah, I'm not the hugest fan, but it seems a lot of people think it makes it easier if you set up a faux mod that, will tell you, like, have things checked automatically for you if you have certain stuff installed.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you prefer to just bake everything in, because your mods are very, very, even though they look like frameworks, are very heavy-handed. They have everything you want in them.
Yeah, I do prefer it that way. And I kind of prefer having, patches and stuff all set separate files. Like, I mean, I could make a faux mod with an installer with, every Armorsmith replacer plugin, but it's just annoying. And the thing I don't like about faux mods is, like, when you deactivate it, you actually have to uninstall it from your profiles to be able to get to the faux mod installer again. You can't just be able to, like, reactivate it and get to make different choices.
Oh, really?
Just that annoyed me with them. So
yeah. Yeah, the idea behind them was solid, and that's basically to allow for a single file download so that people don't have to figure out the files in advance. They can just be walked through which files they're supposed to download. But in practice, I find that very few people actually use them correctly or actually set them up correctly. So I've only built one so far personally. I mean, I do the faux mods for the information that Vortex and NMM need, but as far as the choice installers, I haven't really gotten involved in that, because I tend to not mod anything that involves editing vanilla files, and that's where it tends to be needed, is with the mods, like, as you were saying, there's all the different patches for Armorsmith and stuff. So that's where the faux mods are supposed to make that easier, but I'm not sure that they do.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they do either. So I mean, they might make it easier initially, but I think in the long run, it's not. Because, like, say
Yeah.
someone starts using a new mod and they want an Armorsmith version of it, wouldn't it be easier to just go and grab that one plugin and install it than have to reinstall everything for Armorsmith all over again?
Right.
That's not convenient.
Yeah, definitely not.
So that's why I don't do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. I would. The only thing that I'm actually shocked to hear about Weaponsmith in that regard is how much of an overhaul that mod is. And that something like that, like, to me, it screamed like, just like looking at the title and reading the small description, it's like, all right, well, that sounds like it's a framework mod, but it's not at all, because a framework mod.
No, it's the biggest mod I've done by far, and it's
now,
the most work that I put into anything.
Does it? So that, I mean, that natively, does it work with? I know I'm rolling back to an older topic now with the Weaponsmith. We've already moved beyond it, but I'm curious about it because I had no idea it was as deep as you just described it earlier. But it seems like that one would be a very good mod to be modular. Like, there's a lot of different things in there that maybe not everybody wants all the pieces of. Has somebody already built patches for that sort of thing? Or is that something you ever do?
To make it modular? No.
Yeah.
I mean, people have asked for it, and I'm like, no way. Because it's already such a huge amount of work to do what I've done. Like, the idea of creating patches to undo what I've done doesn't appeal to me at all. Especially because, I mean, plans for Weaponsmith, we're always adding to it. I've got a couple buddies who help me out, Batusai and Ryle Assassin, who helped me out with prepping weapon mods for inclusion.
Okay.
And then I do the work merging them in, going over, checking everything. Basically, I set up a fairly sizable checklist of things that we do to go over a mod to get it ready for inclusion. And, basically I look over their work and then merge it in when it's ready. And we're always adding weapons. Weapon modders are always making new stuff, so... Yeah. Weaponsmith's kind of one of those open-ended mods that'll, never end development.
Right, that's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about SS, and that's also how I feel about when people ask me to break pieces of it off. I'm like, nope, I'm just not. The amount of... Because then not only is it a lot of work to undo what you've done, but then now you have a fork of files you have to keep updated. So then, like, every time you make a change... So, like, if you split a thing off... Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. I used to do it. I had a light mode of some settlements, and I just couldn't keep it up. It was just like one more file. I suddenly have to go back and make all the changes to as well. It's like, oh, this is a nightmare. And it was probably
I fully support you merging it all into one plugin. That was a great decision.
Well, the 3. Well, that's what the 3-in-1 is. Getting that. Well, that actually was me just preparing for it in advance. I built it from the beginning, anticipating I was going to do that, because I found out that the game would allow you to have a blank plugin that just loaded assets. So once I figured that out, I was like, oh, well, then I'll just put all of the form records in one plugin, and then the expansions can just be BA2 files, basically, with blank ESP files. So that was just some pre-planning when I realized that my Xbox had a limit on it, which is so ridiculous, that Xbox limit.
Yeah. Have you found out the reason for that? I talked to Carter Griffey, and it's all about, basically the limit is because when they install the game, it sets up a drive partition on the console, and that's how big the drive partition was.
Really?
And why they can't expand it.
Yeah, how did they get away with the 5 gig limit for Skyrim? Was it just like it's...
I think they just they learned their lesson and talk to the consoles like, we need a bigger partition this time.
Oh man, that's so ridiculous. So they had to like define the partition with Microsoft
ahead of time. Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal. Because technically, that could probably be fixed with a patch. Like, but
well, they could expand it, but if they were to expand it, they would have to delete everybody's mod builds from their console,
right,
and start all over.
Oh, that's
and
so brutal.
I guess I feel that people wouldn't think that was worth it.
No, yeah, definitely not. Although the hardcore players would. They'd be like, yeah, do it. Like, give me my space, damn it. Do you release your stuff on Xbox?
Not really. I mean, I have put out Armor Keywords and Armorsmith, but I think they're like a year and a half out of date now,
Yeah.
something like that. It's just I find uploading the Bethesda net is a pain.
Oh, see, I think it's easy. I don't mind doing Bethesda not at all. The only thing I have a problem with is that I have to have the creation kit open, and it's a memory hog, and then you have to wait forever because it's slow. But as far as the process, like I don't use the. I mean, if you use the in-game or the creation kit archive creator, that thing's a disaster. I don't ever mess with
It
that.
is. It misses tons of files.
It misses tons of files, and it includes stuff it shouldn't. Like I highly oppose that thing. But as far as the upload process, I've always found it real.
Like if
easy.
Bethesda just gave us the option to just upload a plugin in the BA2 straight to BethNet, from our hard drive, then I would do it. But it's such a needlessly arduous task to do it through the creation kit. Like take a task that should take a couple minutes and make a freaking day out of it.
Well, part of it is that their servers are crap. Like half the time it won't accept your file and you have to re-upload, and then it's just the amount of bandwidth they allow is crazy low. I think it was designed for with all this stuff like Bethesda.net's mod interface, and with that, I think they were designed around new people. They're like they weren't worried about the people who are willing to dive in deep or people who have been doing it for a while for other games. They were just like, all right, if a brand new person's coming at this and they don't have all these fancy tools or anything, like we need to give them something real simple that they can just pick up and do.
But only being able to have one file on a page, hate that. That's annoying. It's like I don't want to make a new mod page for every single file.
Right.
Like Armorsmith, I got a couple hundred files on that page. I don't want to make 200 pages just so people can use all my work for one mod.
Yeah, that's a problem. But again, that's a user friendliness thing, though. That's like from the other end of it. That's not trying to make your life miserable. That's trying to make these random people who've never played with mods before make it easier on them. So I think they were trying to discourage us from even doing anything like that, like of making.
I mean, if easier for them is just not getting a whole bunch of options, not getting a whole bunch of mods ever, then I guess it's easier living a life of deprivation.
Well, I think you already are if you play on console, right? Like so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. They don't make mods for us to use, so I don't feel like I owe them anything.
I think with console, well, I mean, anybody who started playing with mods, like even we didn't create mods for people at first. We played with other people's mods, so everybody was a consumer at one point. So I don't look negatively on players who aren't willing to do the work, because I understand I was one of those people too at one point. Hell, I'm practically one of those people now. I complain about faux mods and patches, and I do this stuff every day. So I have no fault for them. Like I get it, and then maybe after they play enough with mods that don't do what they want, they'll be inspired to come mod.
Yeah, maybe they'll hop over to PC.
Yeah, well,
I kind of feel like it's messing up the learning curve.
Convert them over to PC.
Like, to me, the learning curve for becoming a modder, at least for me and for a lot of people I know, is basically you start off with using a lot of mods, and you set it up wrong, and got all kinds of conflicts, and the first thing you learn is how to fix conflicts, how to patch stuff in your build to make it all work together. Like, to me, that's the first step towards becoming a modder. And I think if you make the process too user-friendly, people are never going to have that experience, and they're never going to come down this path.
See, I disagree with that. I think that because that's what I'm trying to do right now is give people that path. I've started a web series of doing tutorials to teach people who have never touched this stuff how to get started. But I work in user experience, so like my whole job is to make things as easy as possible for people. So that's probably why I have that attitude toward it. But I get what you're saying in the sense that like if there's no hurdle to jump over, then people aren't gonna ever even try to get to that starter level on their own, because it's gonna be like, well, why do I bother when someone else is gonna do it for me? So yeah, I can see it. I can definitely see that side. But I like to make things as easy as possible. I'm trying to streamline everything, and I think I think it takes, it's just a certain personality it takes. Like not everybody has it in them to problem solve all of this stuff. So there's a large, and this is why the modding community was relatively small, is because not only do you have to have that in you to build mods, but you almost had to have it in you to even play with mods. Especially if you like look at trying to play mods for Morrowind, like forget about it if you're not like really committed to the idea.
I just think that was like an entry level problem solving though. You know, it wasn't that difficult. It took a little effort, yeah, but you know, I kind of feel like anybody with half a brain could figure it out.
Well, and I think a lot of people
I feel like it helped give people the core skills that you would need to be able to build on to start making your own stuff.
Yeah, maybe. I think there's sometimes people just need a little push though. Like, and I speak from the fact that everybody, well, 90% of the people who have built stuff for Sim Settlements were complete novices before that. I think like. Okay. Like I don't think that that necessarily was required to get into modding. It's probably a great gateway though, for sure. Of you're building patches to fix things in your own loader, and then it's just like, all right, well, it would just be a little bit more work for me to do to make my own mod at this point. Like especially like this type of stuff you're doing where you're overhauling things. I'm sure that had to come to mind when you're building these patches for things. It's like, oh well, I guess I could also not just fix the damage on this thing. I could also change the damage on all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I can see how it definitely could be a conversion factor for modders to have to go through that struggle, like to take them from player to modder. I don't think it's necessary though. I think it's good to make things easier for people, just because the bigger of an audience you have, the more resources you get thrown at it. So like the fact that mods are popular on console right now, I think like Bethesda's next game, they won't make the same mistake of the reduced file size, and I think they'll also give us more tools to make better mods. Like I think they have to see, for example, the fact that it's really hard for us to do good user interfaces for people, that it might inspire them to, for their next game, make the UI system open-ended for Starfield or whatever their next game is. And then like all of a sudden as modders we get better tools to play with. That's the way I look at it, is if you want to make sure the mods are easier for more people to use, you got to make it so that modders can make them easier to use, like make the mods easier to use.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. I know with Fallout 4 we've ran into issues where we were butting up against the glass ceiling of what could be done with the user interface.
Yeah, like thank God for Nyanka.
Yeah,
overriding all of it.
I would have taken VisG even farther, but I had to cut back on it because I was hitting the ceiling.
Yeah,
like where I came into this issue where you would get crashed to desktops from switching tabs in your Pip-Boy if you used a certain amount of unique icons.
Oh, jeez.
Which is kind of disappointing, because we had unique icons for like every vanilla legendary weapon. We had a unique icon for it, but I had to scrap all of those just to make it stable, which was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, especially if you went through all the trouble to make them.
Well, luckily I didn't do that part.
So what was the ceiling is just this arbitrary cap? Do you guys know, like, would it have been fixable if someone redesigned the interface? Like, is it that level, or was it just like there's probably some engine level thing that there's no way around?
I couldn't really tell you. Gurnesh was the one working on the action script stuff for that, and he was just kind of learning as he went along, so I don't know. I think maybe, I don't know if Nyanka ever looked at the issue, so maybe it's fixable, maybe not. I don't know, really.
Well, at least you got the icons
just
somewhere, just in case.
Yeah, I still did get to greatly expand the selection over the older Vis, so
yeah,
I'm happy with it, but I could have been better.
Sure. So it could have been better just in the number of different icons, or are there other things you ran into you wanted to do?
That was the main thing.
Yeah.
It would kind of be nice if I could have made more roll-ups, but it's not a huge deal.
Sure. So with VisG, if somebody wants to start up with it for the first time, like I haven't used it yet, but if I wanted to start up using it, what can I expect as far as, like, am I going to have to download a million patches? Do you have a lot of them already available for the popular mods? Like, what's going on with that? Like, for somebody coming at it new.
There are patches. Well, actually, I've been doing mostly replacer plugins.
Okay.
Although that was kind of, I made most of them before the whole ESL flagged ESP situation. So it could be up. I've started doing patches, but back in the day it was more just replacers.
Sure.
Which is usually okay because usually the mods aren't getting updated. But,
right, at this
if
point,
they do,
there's
it's
not
just
a ton of mods
my
getting
problem.
updated.
So, but it's not too bad as far as the install. You know, just got to install Def UI and then install VisG over top of it, and grab the patches for the mods you use. But it's pretty nice. For the weapons tab, it got a roll up for ranged weapons and melee weapons and explosives. In the armor tab, I have a roll up for outfits, one for armor and power armor, one for accessories, and then one for dogs and kids and super mutant stuff.
That's nice.
So
yeah, managing inventory
really
in a Bethesda game or in a Fallout game is actually all Bethesda games. It's miserable. Like,
it is.
I was just thinking, like, Skyrim is terrible too.
I've been playing Skyrim lately, and it's just like, oh my god, going to the crafting bench, it takes forever. Like, I could have swore that Skyrim had different menus for the different things, like Dwarven and Elven and Ebony and stuff, but it doesn't now. I don't know what mod I have that changed that, but it's all just like, I got a tab for weapons, a tab for armor, but they just go on forever.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things Sky UI fixed, but it's been so long since I've played Skyrim, I'm not even sure about what mods are what anymore. But the system, the Fallout, the Pip-Boy system need an overhaul. Like, God, that better be something on their agenda for their next game. Like, the fact that the first time I rolled up 76 and it's the exact same UI or interface for inventory, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, that system does not work. It's not fun. And then you put it into an online game where theoretically it's supposed to be a loot and shoot where you're going to have, infinite different combinations of items over time. It's like, geez, that is not a good system for that. So that part of VisG definitely entices me. But my problem
Speaking of the database limits for 76, it's like, I understand that that's an issue, but it's more an issue of the amount of different types of things somebody could have in their inventory. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, for each different type of thing, you got a different database entry.
Yeah.
But for the amount of that thing, there's not a whole lot of difference between 1 and, 200 of it.
Right.
Yeah, you're not talking about very many bits, so I feel like they could have given us a lot more storage capacity because the amount of different types of stuff we have isn't going to change.
Right.
Because it's, there's a finite selection of stuff. So what does it matter if we have, like, 20 of each component in our stash or whether we have 1,000? What's the difference?
Yeah, that was one of my arguments that they should have done when I was playing 76 and making videos about it, was that they should at least take all of the junk and make that unlimited. So then you could basically take anything, scrap it down to the core components, and then it's not going to take any more database space. Just like what you said. Like, that makes total sense. Because even if it's so, then maybe the weight limit applies to all the random weapons you're finding, but then you could go to your stash and, like, compress it essentially down to core. Like, that would have been a really cool mechanic. And wouldn't have cost them any server space. So, but my only thought, the reason they don't do that though is because then people who are hardcore about it could just basically invalidate most of the game mechanics, because they would basically just hoard up to the point where none of it mattered, so where they didn't actually have to play again. So it's just like, well, I have unlimited resources, so I'll just craft everything and never have to worry about it again. But that's my understanding.
Well, what's
why
worse,
they actually do that?
Never having to play again or never wanting to play again?
Well, I think both. I think it's both. Both are a problem for that game. I think a lot of people get out of there.
Because I enjoyed that game for a little bit when they had the deep pocket glitch.
Okay.
and I could actually run around, then it
Yeah.
wasn't a bad game.
I was struggling to enjoy it ever. I think 'cause to me the NPCs are one of the best parts of Fallout games, and like without them, I was just like I just don't care about anybody here. Every time I read a quest log or hear a holotape, it's like I'm chasing a dead guy. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't disagree on that point.
But although,
But
it's kinda funny.
running around with your friends was kind of fun. But
Yeah.
you have to be able to run around.
Right.
Walking
time I
around with
tried
your
to play
friends
with
isn't no
people-
fun.
Every time I tried to play with people, we couldn't get on the same server, or one of us would crash over and over again. So it was like even trying to play with friends was miserable. But
Yeah.
I gave up after a couple of weeks. I didn't last long
So
at all
no-
in that game.
Yeah, me neither. It's another reason why you need private servers, because then you can just
Right.
play with your friends.
Yeah. Well, especially if we can self-host. Oh my god, that would be awesome. As opposed to what I think is actually going to happen, which is what we already talked about. But I think, man, if we could self-host and like,
Knock
do
on
script
wood that it
extender yeah, let's hope not. But it seems like when they're trying to control this and make money on it, like if it's all private self-hosted servers, well then they can't sell you Creation Club stuff on there anymore, or what's the Atom Store stuff. Like you can't have Atom Store on a private server. So that's to me is why it's always going to be centralized.
Yeah,
It's the-
but they also don't need to generate revenue from that private server because they're not hosting it, so they don't have the overhead for it anymore.
My bet is they're going to charge a lot less than it costs them to run those. My bet is it's going to be something like $10 a month to run your own server and players can connect to it, and that's going to cost with the hope that it just keeps a lot of people playing for longer so that they're exposed more to the store. But we'll see what happens. I mean, we can all hope for the best. I just look at the model that they're trying to generate their funding on, and it's like that doesn't work well in a scenario where people can host their own servers. So, but maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it'll be something like you pay per month to just have access to private servers, as opposed to you paying for your own private server or something like that, where it's like, Gambit can host his server for this much per month, and then other people who want to connect to it have to pay this much per month, because that would be a way for them to guarantee they get plenty of revenue. Where it would be like the people who control the servers have to pay a little more than the people who are just able to connect to them. Because then it would be like you start up a server for $25 a month, and then all your buddies just have to pay $5 a month or something. But that might also be a deterrent to make people who want to pay for it. Like that might be. I don't know what the cost would be. Like, what would you pay for a private server?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really want to think about that.
So $0. You're looking for that. Is there a free option? Yeah, I feel like I would probably pay up to about $20 just to try it out, and then see if it makes the game more enjoyable for me. And then a lot of that I think is going to come down to what kind of mods come out for it. Like up front, I'd probably do it for a month just to play around and see what it feels like, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm done with that. And then it would just be like, give it 6 months, give it a year, and see what kind of crazy mods come out for it. Because I mean, like if you think about some of the crazy overhauls we have for Fallout 4 and how much they dramatically changed the game, like once that stuff comes into play, well then $10 a month is getting you a hell of a lot more than it is if you're just playing the vanilla game with no other players. Because the vanilla game is almost barren of other players anyway. Like it's so hard to find people after you get out of the starting zone.
Yeah, I'd really like to rebalance the weapons.
So
I-
you want to
I
build
kinda
Weaponsmith again?
I kind of feel like they don't know anything about guns
See, I think what they
other than
do
what
is-
they look like.
Right. I think it started out with Fallout 4. It looked like they actually took the time to be like, all right, let's look at weapons for their role. Like you need a widespread close-up gun. That's your shotgun. Like you have the weapons that serve a specific purpose of range and risk reward. And then beyond that, and then once you get to 76, then they're just like, all right, well now we just throw spaghetti at the wall. Just like any weapon we have a drawing for, let's make it. And like, because I don't think you need a ton of different weapons.
I don't think they know
really.
anything about calibers.
No, I don't
Like,
think they have to worry about it either. I think most people don't.
Like
care.
the CC anti-material rifle.
Okay.
Like this is a 50 BMG rifle, and I don't know if you're familiar with 50 BMG bullets, but
I am
they're
I am
kind
one
of
of the, see,
about
I'm one of the rubes that doesn't care about like
they're about
I'm
the
happy-
size of your hand.
Holy cow.
So
like, I
you
was
know,
just gonna say,
if
I'm
you
the
shoot
reason
somebody
that
with a
Bethesda
50
gets away with
BMG,
this.
it will put a big giant hole in somebody's torso.
Oh wow.
So you know how they do the caliber changing receivers.
Okay.
For that gun, they made a caliber swap to it. Not like something sensible. They didn't choose to, like a swap to a 308, which is still a large rifle round, but much smaller than a 50 BMG. Like
Okay.
50 BMG is more like a anti-tank round, almost.
Jeez.
But instead, they gave it a caliber swap to a 32 round, which is a small pistol round.
Sure.
Like, that's like a weapon for, like, a Walther PPK. You have this fucking giant-ass rifle shooting small pistol rounds. Like, what the heck were they thinking? Like,
yeah,
any gun nut's gonna look at that and be like, what?
Yeah, so I think the thing is I think most of their audience are not gun nuts. I think most of their audience are just like, they just don't care. And then they get to write it off also with its alternate history. Like, that's a good fail-safe too, where they don't have to own up to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I yelled at Axis about it because it was one of his creations. And he's like, don't blame me, I didn't do the plugin. I told them not to do that. They didn't listen.
See, I'm one of the. I think I don't know anything about that stuff and would make the mistake as well. Like, if I was in charge of it, I'd be like, I don't know. Although I'd probably do what you did, which is just base it off of real life stuff. It's a lot easier than trying to dream it all up from scratch.
Yeah,
but
I
think they get away with it because most people don't care enough.
I just did a couple days of research and learned about calibers. Like, literally, it only takes a couple days and some Google searches, and you'd know everything you'd need to know about different calibers in order to implement them properly in a video game. Just a couple days of discovery. That's it.
It could also be just a matter of they were preferring to stick to the older games, and maybe the older games were guilty of it. But I know that New Vegas had a ton of real life weapons in it. Like, they had the whole little
New
DLC
Vegas
thing
was
that
pretty
all
well
about it.
done.
Yeah.
Like, they knew what they were doing with calibers over at Obsidian. So,
but I don't. It has been so long since I played like the original games. I'm curious if it was the original games had made up stuff. So then Fallout 3 is like, all right, well, let's just stick with the made up stuff. And then when New Vegas or Obsidian came along to New Vegas, they're like, oh, we should fix that. Like, we should fix how stupid our calibers were or something like that. I don't know how the line went. I'm sure somebody who follows the games a little more closely could answer that and knows the answer right now. But that's
there were even things that they did right in Fallout 4 that they messed up in 76. Like the hunting rifle in Fallout 4, it's originally calibered in 308, which is a large hunting rifle round, and with a possible switch to 50 BMG, which is an even bigger round, which makes sense. And the 50 BMG does more damage. In 76, you rechamber a hunting rifle to BMG, and the damage goes down instead of up. Like, how'd they do that? They did it right the first time. Why you gonna go mess up the second time?
The most important thing I've picked up from this bit of the conversation is that I wish in Fallout the 50 BMG rounds actually left a fist-sized hole through people. That sounds like
I think in
awesome
76 they have a light machine gun that fires them, and I think it does less damage than a pipe rifle.
Yeah, the automatic weapons doing less damage always feels really wonky in these games. Like I thought the whole point that's supposed to make it balanced is the recoil. Like, it's really hard.
Yeah, that's how I do it in Weaponsmith, but
right.
What do I know?
Well,
I'm available for hire, Bethesda, if you want me to come fix all your stuff.
I'll come fix your weapons.
I'll move to Maryland and get your games sensical.
Oh man, the weapons stuff like that though. Like I said, I think they can probably continue to just make it weird, and I think they'll get away with it for a while, especially because they're doing, they got alternate history for Fallout, and then their next game's gonna be sci-fi, so that can be made up stuff, and obviously Skyrim, they don't have anything to base it off of, what do they think the next one's gonna be called? Redfall? Whatever the
I don't
next
know.
whatever the next
That
Elder
could be
Scrolls
cool.
is. They won't have to worry about realism. So I think all three of these franchises, I think they're going to just continue to do whatever they want with it, as opposed to bringing you in to fix it. So modders get to save it. So plan on making Weaponsmith over and over again is what I'm getting at. Do you have? So I guess that's an interesting thought. There is with 76. If the servers are reasonably priced and interesting to you, do you have major changes you would make to the way you did Weaponsmith in hindsight? Like, because I know one of the problems often with these mods is once we release them out into the world, there's a certain number of changes where to make them would either alienate a bunch of the audience, or certain other changes are just unmakeable without breaking people's saves, where it's just like you can't go back and delete records without causing serious problems. Are there things that you did in Weaponsmith that you regret that you would like to, or maybe that now after having played the game for so much longer, you would rethink and do in a different way for a new game?
No, not really. I mean, sometimes like a mod ends up seeming kind of dated. But usually if that's the case, like something else like a newer mod will come out with a better version of the weapon. And so far I've been able to basically, swap out the old one, swap in the new one. Sometimes I can even do it using the same form IDs. So like if somebody, like I did that with the Scar H, there was an older version and then a newer one came out. I was basically able to, just edit the old records to point them to the new stuff. So if somebody had one in their inventory, they just add the new version now.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't exactly do that with there was an older, the M2216, like a M16 type AR assault rifle. I wasn't able to do that when we added the service rifle by Deadpool, just because of the way he set up his gun with had a bunch more mod slots because of the upper and lower receivers.
Yeah.
The way he set it up. So in that case, I just basically took the old one, replaced the old one in the leveled list, to deprecate it so it wouldn't be propagated anymore.
Right.
But as far as doing anything differently, not really.
Okay. I would say one of the advantages you have to putting out on PC only is you don't have to worry about file size there, so you can, if you keep having to add additional weapon models and just keep the old ones in, it's not a big deal. Whereas Xbox players would be pitching a fit if they found out you did that to them.
Yeah. They don't have to worry about it because, sorry, Xbox users, Weaponsmith is over 6 gigabytes. It's not for you.
That's nuts. 6 gigs. I never even looked at the size of it. I just saw how popular it was, and it's like, man, that mod's got something going. I knew it had to have some more than what I thought it did, because in my head I was just like, oh, that's just Armorsmith for weapons, because Armorsmith feels much more like a framework. Like it's a lot of
it is. But Weaponsmith is definitely a lot more than a framework.
Yeah,
it's actually like the combination. It's like the combination of 3 frameworks, a complete weapon balance overhaul. All the weapons are leveled list integrated. I expanded the object templates for a lot of the weapons. Like some of the stuff that was more bare bones, I built them out so there'd be, simple and random object templates to, have more variations of it spawning in game.
Right. So, now, does that work with? I have not used a ton of overhaul mods. Does it work with a lot of the other big overhaul mods, or is that a big source of conflict? Like can it work with something like Horizon, for example?
Oh, I don't know. I've never really looked at Horizon. I know we have like a patch for better locational damage, which a lot of people use.
Yeah.
I really never felt the use to use that though. I kind of I think a lot of one of the big selling points for that is the ability to one-shot people with headshots. But I kind of feel like you can do that anyway in the right situation. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, the wrong situation, maybe you shouldn't be able to. Like if you're using a weak gun and they got head armor, maybe they shouldn't die from one hit.
Well, that's exactly what one of the things BLD does, is it prevents Like if they have a helmet, it prevents headshots or prevents the
Okay.
extreme headshot damage. But I'm torn on BLD. Like I like some features about it, and I don't like other features about it. But I do hate bullet sponginess. So like I just want any mod to fix that. Like just make it so that.
Well,
you know,
I'll start
if
using Weaponsmith. I fixed that. I walk the fine line between overpowered and sponge. So
I mean, well, you actually made it less likely for me to use Weaponsmith by your descriptions of it, but it does sound like it's a nice all-in-one package to get a whole lot of stuff, like without having to deal with the complexities of installation, which is nice. And I think a lot of your stuff is like that. Is like because you're not dicking around with too much. Full mod stuff and things. I think those are great mods for somebody to just pick up without like just grab it and go. So something like Weaponsmith, you get a totally different experience without having to deal with a whole bunch. Like obviously, there's some patches and stuff, but I like modular stuff. I love having little pieces I can pick and choose and kind of craft the experience. And the only reason, like for me, I love the idea of some of the stuff you're talking about and would love to play with that. Like you're changing the damage and making it so that bullet rarity actually has an effect on your gameplay. That sounds awesome. I'm an immersive whore, and I hate having modern day weaponry in my game.
Boo.
So like that, like that's a no. That's a thumbs.
All right. Well, then no plasma weapons, no laser weapons. Take all that stuff away from you.
Well, that's all built in. That's all built into Fallout War because it was based on 50s.
You know what else is built into Fallout War?
What's
AR platform assault rifles, P90 submachine guns.
Was that all in New Vegas?
Yeah, it's actually no, it's in Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 too, and those are all modern weapons. So.
Oh man, yeah. See,
Checkmate.
the modern ones.
Checkmate.
Those modern ones. Those modern ones just bother me. I love the. See, I would like to I would love to give them the permission to retcon old lore for that reason alone. Is like I love the style of the. I know you're not into it, and we already discussed that. But to me,
modern weapons are lore friendly. The 10mm pistol. That's a modern weapon.
I do remember crazy amounts of modern weapons in what was that Brotherhood of Steel game? It was Tactics. There was just like it was all modern weaponry. I do remember that. And that game was
marksman rifle.
Yeah.
There's plenty of modern weapons in the Fallout games.
I'm a sucker for their new
12.7 millimeter submachine gun. Modern weapon.
I'm a sucker for what they did with Fallout 4's weapons. I really like the fact that they've tried to stick to everything being a little phony. I think it adds a little more style and differentiates it.
I don't think they did. Take a look at the vanilla assault rifle, man. That thing's a big old crazy futuristic.
It looks ridiculous though. It doesn't look like any.
It
real
is
weapon.
Ridiculous. I know.
It doesn't look like any real weapon. That's
it's
what I love about
big, giant, water cooled monstrosity.
Yeah, I love it.
Like in Weaponsmith, I don't even. I have it classified as a light machine gun in Weaponsmith, so I've got it firing a light machine gun.
Okay.
Instead, because it's not an assault rifle. I don't know what they named it that for. It's not. It's a big old giant light machine gun that you should probably be wearing power armor to carry.
Right. Yeah. The thing, but see, I like the fact that all their weapons are. They basically decide. I think what they decided was. Like, we're not going to try and compete with games like Call of Duty, which are doing hardcore, realistic versions of weapons, or like Division does it, PUBG does it. Like, all these games now have very, very good implementations of real-world weapons, and I think they just were like, all right, let's lean on style for ours, and so I appreciate that. So I like the fact that their weapons aren't so realistic, but. I will fold and say yes, they are immersive in the sense that all the old games did have crazy amounts of realistic firearms. So, but I'm a fan of what they're doing with Fallout 4. I like the fact that all the weapons they keep putting out with the DLC and with the Creation Club stuff all are the crazy, like 50s sci-fi style as opposed to modern. Just add some flavor.
Yeah, I just don't agree that what they're putting out is not modern.
Okay, fair.
That's my take on it.
It just looks like I think it's the like they do a lot more.
Like to me, the only one that's not modern is the Thompson submachine gun.
Well, I mean, I guess not even modern so much as like they don't look. None of them look like real modern weapons. They don't look like real weapons. They all look a little phony and like they look a little cartoonish, a little a little silly. Like even the stuff that is direct real world weapons.
I guess like the combat rifle and combat shotgun are kind of weird looking.
Yeah, they don't have like direct real life equivalents.
Like the hunting rifle, it's a Remington 700.
Yeah,
it's
that one is probably
weapon.
one of the exceptions.
Submachine gun's a real life weapon.
The 10mm doesn't look like anything real I've ever seen.
It's because in a real life you can't make a pistol that big and heavy. I mean, that thing's bigger than a Desert Eagle, and most people can't wield a Desert Eagle properly.
That's probably why it's so satisfying to bash with that thing. I love the beatdown animation of the 10mm.
Yeah, Deliverer, real weapon.
Yeah,
I mean, there's plenty of real world weapons.
Yeah, I concede that point. You got me there. I'm just saying I love the big chunky silly weapons in Fallout 4. I think they're a lot of fun.
I guess.
And 76, I think, continued that tradition too. Even all the stuff they added is all kind of ridiculous versions of all of the weapons that they've added.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense for 76 to have all these big giant weapons because they make it mandatory to use power armor at all times.
That's true. You pretty much are always power armoring. That'll be interesting if they. Well, that'll be the type of thing that mods fix. Mods will offer like the possibility to play a stealth character properly without having to run around in big chunky power armor.
Yeah, bring back the ballistic weave.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very, very interested to see where 76 goes with mods, and also curious if you're gonna find the energy to rebuild these mods, because the more you talk about Weaponsmith, the deeper I realize it is, and like I've looked through VizG and looked through AWKCR, and it's like I can see you put a lot of time into records, and like you said, ZLove gives you the automation tools to help with some of that, but it sounds like the amount of hours you have in Weaponsmith is absurd.
It's hundreds, yeah.
Yeah. So do you have it in you to do it again?
Oh, I don't know.
Like tomorrow, like say tomorrow, they're like, you know what, Gambit, you've been such a badass in the community. You've been helping out. We're giving you a free server. Have at it. Well, we want to see you make some mods. What do you say?
I would see if I couldn't just port the plugin over. Delete all the Fallout 4 records and just do a direct port. See if that would work.
See if it would go through. I mean, it probably would. In fact, that actually wouldn't be a bad strategy for Bethesda to like be able to ensure that they get a ton of mods real fast. It's just embrace the fact that it's built on the same engine and just let us port a bunch of stuff over, because you'd have like insta mods.
Yeah.
Especially for things like weapons and armor, where it's not as it doesn't have a lot of effect on network code. Like obviously, like any of the stuff I've done would probably have to be completely rewritten from scratch to deal with the network side of things. But I would imagine, there's probably some weapons that are a little bit scripted, but I would think most of the weapons would just plug and play, just get them in there and they'd go.
Pretty much, yeah. I can't think of a whole lot of weapons that have any scripts attached to them.
Yeah. I think a lot of the way a lot of them do it, and I just found this out by diving into remote explosives, is they basically use a projectile that places an explosion, and then that explosion will have a script on it that runs to tell the game that you fired it or whatever. But like, yeah, it's probably, but even that, a lot of that stuff is probably not common. It's only going to be the ones that do funky things. I haven't
really got around to messing with the remote explosives yet. There's so many grenades and explosives in Weaponsmith that I don't feel the need to have a delayed boom. I'll just shoot them. I'll just shoot them with the grenade launcher straight off the bat. Watch it boom as soon as it hits them.
It's very satisfying to set up a trap and then press that detonator. It feels very good.
I never use mines. Like, I'm always the grenade dude. Never the mines. I don't set traps.
No.
If
you're not playing stealth,
I bum rush them.
Right.
I just bum rush them.
Just chuck a grenade in there and come running.
I kind of feel if you're playing stealth in the game, it's just a matter of sniping people.
Yeah.
Like, stealth is just too easy.
Stealth is very easy. That's but it's a very satisfying easy. I think I think it could definitely be made harder. Like I would love to see it more like MGS style or something. That game is so much fun for stealth, and is actually still can be challenging. But yeah, I think like Fallout, you go stealth, it's pretty easy mode.
Yeah, the way that I play and with the amount of enemies that I have in my game, like, I have it so that if I don't fight smart in any particular battle, I'm a dead man.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Like
last long in your
I gotta
playthrough,
stay
though.
on my P's and Q's. I need to utilize cover.
Yeah.
I need to aim well and take people down
Oh
quickly.
man, this all sounds like I would get my ass kicked.
And I need to prioritize the most dangerous targets first.
that
Like if
part
I
I
roll
can
up on
get
a
down
bunch
with.
of enemies, you gotta look for that dude with the minigun. Because if
Sure,
some dude
sure.
hits you with the minigun, shooting super high caliber rounds, you might get one-shotted, so you better kill him quick.
See, that's where I want to stealth. It's just like take him out before it's even a problem. Open up combat with a little snipe action. So that's interesting that you play in such a hardcore mode and then you don't use power armor on top of it. I guess that adds to the hardcoreness.
Yeah. Well, I do use a bunch of followers, so even while they're not very effective offensively,
Yeah,
just the fact that they're there,
good
kind
bullet
of-
punches.
Well, not so much bullet sponges, but I don't have all the attention on me at all
Sure.
times.
Yeah,
Like they're a
'cause
distractionary measure.
right. So bullets.
So I don't have every enemy shooting all at me at once.
Right. Oh man, I would get wrecked in your game's design because my aim is so miserable. People always joke about it in my Let's Play vids how terrible my aim is because I'll fire off like a full magazine and hit one guy. It's just like that's why I like quick reload mags. I can try again.
Are you mouse and keyboard or controller?
I'm a controller guy.
All right, my man.
Yeah, I love using.
Oh, don't blame your bad aim on the controller. You can have good aim with a controller.
Oh, I agree. I've seen people. My buddies all wreck me when we play like Halo and stuff. It's like the controller is not my excuse. My excuse is just I'm bad at first-person shooters, which is probably why I was drawn to Fallout because it's like, oh, I can just use mats. This is great.
Do you play
great
first person
equalizer.
all the time?
What's that? Yeah, I play first person.
Do you play first person? Oh, I'm all third person all the way.
What I really want to do, and I might do it in my next character, is play with that. There's a mod that lets you, when you aim, you go into first person. That really appeals to me. I like that idea of being able to stick in third person except in combat, essentially.
Yeah, I use first person every now and then, but mostly third.
Do you have like a good set of I&I settings? Because I find some third person shooters are fantastic. Like Gears of War was great, but it feels so wonky in Fallout 4 to me to be playing in third person.
I don't really edit
just use
it.
the
I usually most of the time I'm zoomed out as far as you can go by
Okay.
default.
Maybe
So
that's
that's
the
how I
difference.
usually
I
play
tend
it.
to keep it when tend to keep it pretty tight when I'm doing that, but I just feel it just doesn't feel right to me. There's something off about the third person in it, and I don't know if I'm the minority in there because I know a lot of people who play in third person, and I've never heard anybody complain about that. But for me, it just always just feels like I'm playing a broken game when I do that. And like I want to play in third person because like you get all these cool aesthetics to make your character look awesome. And then there's do you use what's Reg2K's mod, the one that lets you do the cover system?
I don't normally, no. The take cover.
Take cover, that's what it's called. Thank you. Yeah, I tried using that, and that felt kind of wonky too. So it was just like, all right, well, I'm not like that would be the selling point for me to play in third person, and it barely works. Like half the time.
Yeah,
I
keep moving too much to use it.
Sure. Yeah, you got to get in there and chuck those grenades. There's no time for that. But
I'd be more likely to shoot grenades than chuck them.
Shoot grenade. Are there a lot of? Is that something that people have figured out a lot of? Like I've seen one weapon that had that with the alternate fire being a grenade launcher.
That is a part of loads. There's an underbarrel grenade launcher for the combat rifle, but that's not what I usually use. I usually use a M79 thumper, like an old World War II grenade launcher.
Right. So that's just its primary focus. It's not even about.
Yeah, it's just a grenade launcher. Yeah.
Because I was just.
But it's pretty sweet.
That alternate.
We have.
It's a shame that we don't have alternate fire built into the game. Like that, it's like that you have to like go through a bunch of extra measures to make it to basically replace the basher grenade attack with something alternate. It's a shame we just don't have alternate fire modes. That was one of my favorite things about Half-Life. Which one was that? I think it was opposing forces. I can't remember. But any time I had a weapon with an alternate fire, it was so much fun. And I want that depth now in Fallout.
Yeah, I don't know. The only time I really used that a lot was like back in the day playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Noob tubing people, but
Yeah.
so cheap.
I need that stuff, man. I'm a bad first-person shooter player. give me the noob tubers. That's why I'm usually like I've got a shotgun at the ready at all times because it's like, all right, well, worst case scenario, I just get it to the point where they fill my whole screen and I can't possibly miss, and all the full force of it will hit. I'll be in good shape. That's probably why I use power armor too.
Yeah. Well, maybe you just need a bunch of miniguns. Miniguns are fun.
Miniguns.
I remember when I was testing out when I first merged in Scabata's miniguns in the Weaponsmith. I went down to the Glowing Sea, to the Devil's Den dungeon,
Okay.
and there was like 20 death claws in there.
Yeah.
I went through thousands of rounds, just thousands.
Yeah.
They was so crazy. That's probably one of the craziest fights ever. Like
Now,
they took out my whole squad. Like all my companions were down.
Yeah.
And I'm just blowing through ammo like it's no tomorrow.
And was it well earned ammo given your rebalance?
Yeah. I mean, I do have ammo crafting in Weaponsmith, so it's not only loot or buy, you can also craft it as well.
Sure.
But it's still expensive.
Yeah. All right,
but yeah,
man. Well,
you got to do something with your caps. I can't give it all to my settlements. I got to, have some fun spending it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I have. I don't even know what to do with the caps in the game. I usually I'm hoarding them early because I'm afraid to spend them because I'm like maybe I'll need them, and then by the end of the game I'm just so damn cap rich I don't even know what to do with them. Like,
actually, I mean you created my biggest cap sink and material sink.
The maintenance
I give a
cost
ton
is
of stuff
absurd.
to the settlements.
Yeah. Yeah, the game needed it. It needed a resource sink because it's so easy to get rich in that game. Like, even whether it be whether you're playing with mods or not, because mods make it a little bit worse, I think, because of so many things are level-less injecting. So then you come across a guy and he's got multiple suits of armor and weapons on his inventory, as opposed to vanilla where they'll usually just have just their primary weapon. So then it's. So once you had enough, after a couple of mods installed, and you run into a couple of squads of guys who've got the level list hits, you're just filthy rich. So
that was the hugest problem in New Vegas. That's the main reason I don't mess with level list injection at all. So I never have to deal with that.
You don't want the rich.
Like in New Vegas. Yeah, New Vegas would be playing. You kill somebody. It's like, why has he got 5 guns? What the heck?
I think that's what your idea for setting up those lists. It seems like you guys could solve that problem though, of making sure that, because if the way I've seen the list stacked, especially the way you guys do them in your mods, is with like what Third Storm has done with a lot of the level lists. They're very cleverly done to where you should be able to arrange it so that they each get just the one. If you're controlling the top like the NPC level and you've got all the modders injecting into pre-configured lists. Isn't that kind of the idea there? You're making it less likely to happen?
Yeah.
So that'll be good. What's the ETA on having that system up and running?
I'm not really sure. Like, I've been working with it. Third Storm hasn't been around very much lately.
I was going to say, is this like another perpetual beta?
We've been working on it hand in hand. Yeah, kind of. Like a lot of it has been. He's actually getting pretty close to having Raider Overhaul ready.
Yeah, and
this was one of the last things to do for getting that out the door.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. I'm way into the Raiders obviously right now. But yeah, I've been poking Third Storm since we started development on Conqueror. Be like, hey man, can you get that ready? Can we get Raider Overhaul done?
Just wait until perpetual beta's ready. Like, it kind of got sidetracked just because there was some drama.
Yeah, that happens.
Where it had to get split off into its own project because certain people weren't team players.
Yeah, we don't need to get into the details. We don't need to
Yeah.
let the drama out in the world. But I get you. But I've seen some of the early screenshots and stuff of that, and some of the stuff you guys did is freaking amazing, and I'm very much looking forward to that hitting the world.
Yeah, he really built out the Raider armor. Like, he's got it set up so there's, millions of combinations that you could get.
And some really sweet looking
Like,
stuff
he's all
too.
kinds of greebles and attachments
Yeah.
that you can get on it. Raiders are going to be scary looking.
And it'll definitely be
Like
no two alike ever again, because there's a lot of
No.
of repeat looking stuff going on with the Raiders. Like even if you ignore the fact that they only have like 6 faces, even their armor loadouts, it's pretty quick to see lots of different bits.
Oh my goodness, you're not using unique NPCs. What's the matter with you?
I'm using unique monsters, which has been a trip, because like the other day I ran into a death claw that looked like a Mirelurk. I was like, what the hell? What is this mod doing?
Yeah, that thing's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
But yeah, you should be using
so
the one for humans too. It has a huge
I,
variety.
The only reason I didn't is I started out with as close to a vanilla experience with anything that dealt with Sim Settlements and Conqueror, so I could figure out where the weaknesses were in that system. So like after playing it, I was like, all right, I know we need to make some effort to put in more Raider variations, or like we need to randomize the civilian and visitor faces, and so other people have already released mods to do that, but I was like, that needs to happen in the core mod, and I really got a feel for it by playing with it. And then it was after that, then I started like taking suggestions for random mods, and that's how I ended up with unique monsters. Is just like, if people recommend it to me, like, let's install it and see what happens. How does it mess up my game? Because
it didn't.
So far it hasn't. Well, not that I don't expect that mod to, but I mean the installing random mods has not broken it, because I'm doing the opposite of the method. I'm doing the idiot's guide to modding.
Clusterfuck.
Right, just keep installing stuff and see what happens. It's a fun way to mod, but it's not the smart way to mod. It's a great way to mod if you don't care about your character. But all right, man, it's been great talking with you. I learned a ton about your mods, and now I'm gonna have to go give them a second look, because VizG, I didn't know that there was already a patch to fix the weight, so that's exciting. And Weaponsmith sounds a hell of a lot deeper than I ever knew. So that's another one I'm gonna have to give a look at. So thanks for all the work you do, man. Because like, I think without AWKCR, I don't think we would have nearly the good weapon experience we do. Like, even outside of Weaponsmith, just the fact that that mod has, and I know you weren't the only one involved, but you have kind of become its steward now. Is that without AWKCR, we would have some pretty messy mod, what would you call it? The mod screen. Like, the mod screen would be pretty miserable to look at with all the different things people were doing. So it's nice and clean now.
Yeah. Armor keywords, that's pretty much been my mod since the beginning. It just, the initial idea was Val's, so that's who it ended up getting released under. But
that's the name.
I've done most of the work on it since the beginning.
Yeah, I know you've been key to it, and not just that though. You have a whole bunch of mods I don't think people even know about. They would have to click on your name to find them. You've got quite the pool here. But anyway,
yeah, I like to help out where I can.
Yeah, we all appreciate it, man. So do you got
I appreciate everything you do too, man. Your mods are just as instrumental to the game, in my opinion. So
that's the goal. Want to produce cool stuff people want to play.
Yeah, I love it.
Anything
you've made my settlements awesome. The only one I even build myself anymore is the vault.
Yeah,
I let you and your team handle all the rest of them.
I'm so glad that there's so many people who have been making city plans now, because it's nice to have a good variety. Because I feel the same way. I don't want to build settlements anymore. I want to build one settlement. I want to build my base, and then everybody else, the rest of them, I don't care. I want them to be built, but I don't really want to put the effort in. So, anything you want to pimp out before we end the conversation?
I know in the video I recorded from you, people get a good look at what I'm doing with the Rev. I think people are gonna really like it a lot. It's novel in the way I've handled things, so I hope everybody enjoys it as much as I do. And that's kind of the main thing I've been working on, other than working on adding stuff to Weaponsmith. So
yeah,
I've been working on it
Can't
for a
look-
long
can't wait till
time,
it gets
so
released.
I look forward to finally getting it out the door. Although I still got a lot of work to do, so
Sweet.
don't bite my head off yet, and please no
Okay, now
going.
you're-
What's the ETA? When's it coming out? Because that shit's
right.
annoying.
Oh, yeah. ETA is incoming. You're getting spammed.
I'll
by
be like,
these-
it's done when it's done. Don't annoy me and make me not want to work
perpetual
on
beta.
it. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna get interrupted anyway. So because you're gonna have to build Weaponsmith for 76 now
Well,
too, which you're also gonna get a bunch of ETAs.
Yeah, I don't know if 76 will be interrupting any Fallout 4 projects for me.
On. That's good to hear from my side. Much prefer this.
Yeah, so do I.
All right, man.
All right, man. Good talking with you.
Great talking with you.